So in today's video, we'll be talking about taking action and the importance of taking action and why you should stop thinking about taking action and just start doing it. Oftentimes, people will say they'll do it later or they'll get to it, but they never do. For example, some people want to start a business or they want to learn a new instrument or they want to travel or start working out, but they don't. This could be due to a couple of different reasons. One of them could be not placing enough importance on the matter, which is the main reason. The second reason is not enough time, which a lot of people give. And this is essentially saying that it's not important enough. Because if it's important enough, you would put time on it. Another reason is a lot of people say they don't know how or they're not prepared. But you have to take action. You have to take it one
Mhm.
step at a time. And the issue with all of these reasons is when people finally decide to take action, they realize it's too late and they've missed their chance to do whatever they wanted to do. Like if they wanted to start a business, and then when they finally take the time and set it up and start taking action, they realize the competition is too high because everyone took their chance while you were waiting. Or maybe they
Yeah.
wanted to travel, and when they finally decided to book the tickets or the hotels, the price went up and they can't afford it anymore.
Yeah. So that's why like the best time to start was yesterday. And the next best time is now. When you have to decide what to do, I think you should think of the things that you least want to do because that's probably the right thing to do. So, for example, when I was going through a breakup in my last relationship, it was obvious that we were diverging from each other in the sense that we wanted different things in life. She wanted to get married, but marriage wasn't even on my mind. I don't think it's in any guy's mind when they're in their early 20s. So I tried to decide between different approaches on dealing with the situation. The thing that I wanted to do the least was to break up with her, but that was probably the right thing to do. And deep down, I knew that. My instincts have the answer already, which is exactly why I didn't want to do it. So there was an internal struggle that went on for months before I had enough of the ultimatums and the manipulations. So finally, I grew tired of that and just grew a pair of balls and broke up with her over dinner.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys in their early 20s, they're more focused
Yeah.
on trying to accomplish things, their goals, working, being financially independent. A lot of guys aren't that focused on trying to get married.
Yeah.
There's a scale. If you're more masculine, that means you're more focused on your purpose
Mhm.
and you're focused on working to get there. But if you're more feminine, you're focused on love.
Yeah.
So traditionally, men would be on this side, but now they're shifting towards this side.
Yeah, if you're talking about that scale, thinking back, I would probably consider myself towards the more feminine side. So back then, I was hungry for love, basically. I was hungry for love. And every time I got into a relationship, it was always like, please love me, please give me attention, that sort of thing. And now that I realized I stepped out of it, it just clicked. This is not how it's supposed to be for me anymore. Like that's not how I want to live my life anymore. And now that I
Mhm.
can see that and I'm trying to make changes and I'm doing the changes as we go.
You knew internally, based on your instincts, that the right thing to do was to break up with her, right?
Yeah.
So this leads into basically short-term pain and long-term gain,
Right.
which is
Yeah.
basically if you work now, you can relax later instead of short-term gain and long-term pain, which is relaxing
Mhm.
now and struggling later. So most people, instead of putting in the work now, they decide to have the pleasure now because nowadays people are always searching for dopamine 24/7.
Yeah.
This comes in all forms: social media, junk food, porn, and all of these are examples of short term pleasure that result in long term issues. Like, for example, social media, it
Mhm.
wastes your time. You're just there scrolling and you keep getting like a rush of dopamine every time you switch, constantly like pushing stuff to you.
Mhm.
And depending on your content, it can fuck you up and make things worse for you.
Right.
And then junk food, it tastes good right now. Everyone loves fried chicken, but It's full of artificial garbage and it's super high in calories, which causes long-term health issues. You put on weight, and all that stuff does damage to your body. And the same thing with porn and masturbation. It's fake sex and it causes relationship issues down the line because if you keep watching porn, you think that's the norm, but it isn't the norm. That's not how it's supposed to be. Real sex is nothing like that. Those are all fake scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
So the key is to suffer now and put in the work now so that you can reap the rewards for later.
Yeah. So when we first came up with the idea for this channel, it took us about a week to consolidate the idea, generate content for our first topic, write proofs, film, edit, and upload. We decided to quickly take action as soon as we thought it's a good idea, because the longer you delay it, the less likely it will happen. And I see this a lot of the times on Reddit or on social media, where a lot of people who want to start out on a new YouTube channel, they go out and buy all sorts of equipment, the best video camera, the best microphone, the best computer, the best sound system, and then they end up spending all this money and they don't even have a single video out after 6 months. And the reason for that is they're paralyzed with the fear of making that first step. You're getting all these tools, but you're not using them. So isn't that a waste? Right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
See, a lot of people come up with great ideas. Every day people get ideas. Even like all of us in the toilet when we're showering, stuff comes into our mind. But the
Yeah.
thing is, how many people actually take action on their ideas? There's a big difference between wanting to do something and actually doing it.
Yeah. So there's just never going to be a right time to pursue something. We have a lot of things going on in our lives, and it's only a matter of whether or not you're willing to take that step and prioritize your purpose. A lot of times when we say purpose, we have to practice to make sure that we get it right, because practice makes perfect. And everything sounds so easy until you actually try it. Just for example, every guy has been watching porn since before they hit puberty. But when you actually have sex for the first time in high school or whenever, you probably were like, huh, it's lower than I imagined. So, as we talked about just now, porn is not realistic. But the key message here is, if you want to perfect yourself and do something that you want to pursue, you have to practice. You can't just be looking at it through videos. You have to go outside and actually do it.
Yeah, you
Now,
have to
here,
take action
yeah,
and try it. If you don't try, you'll never know if it's meant for you. You'll never know if you can
yeah,
do it. Maybe you
exactly.
think you can't do it, but once you try, it turns out it's easier for you. It's something you can
Hmm.
do.
Yeah, exactly. Here's another example. Now that I'm single again, people around me would say, wow, you're single again. Man, you get to fuck whoever you want. And I'm like, oh, really? Says who? I couldn't before. Why could I now? Right? It's not like overnight everything would just fall into my lap just like that. If I wanted to get back out there and start dating again, I have to prepare myself both mentally and physically, because nobody wants to date a sad guy who's emotionally unavailable.
Yeah, that's true. But like if you don't work on your issues, how can you
Mhm.
expect to get more girls? Like
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
issues from before are still there. You
Mhm.
have to fix those issues before you can move on. So even though you're single, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah. If we don't change that mindset, then you're never gonna attract someone who is better for you. You're just gonna just go on with that vicious cycle, and it just never ends.
And I think when it comes to starting something, starting to change, or starting to take action, there are two fallacies that most people fall into. The first
Mhm.
one is they think that other people are given or they get to where they are suddenly. Essentially, they feel like they can do it without any practice. For example, some guy could watch a professional athlete playing ping pong, and it's like, oh, that looks so simple. I bet I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
The other fallacy is requiring all the tools before they begin. An example
Mm-hmm.
of this could be someone who wants to pursue singing. If you're good enough to sing, people can hear it through a cheap microphone. You don't need
Yeah.
the best microphone in the world to show that you can sing.
Yeah. So like when we see other people skyrocket all of a sudden, like all these YouTubers who blow up with one video, amassing millions of views and getting millions of subscribers with just one video, but we don't see the hard work and perseverance that they've put in behind the scenes. They could have prepared for this for years, but we only saw the moment of their success. So now this fallacy will make us feel anxious and helpless. So maybe you'll want to try and replicate what they did, but 99% of the time you'll fail because you're not prepared for that sort of success yet.
Exactly, because copying someone will only get you so far because someone has already done it. It is always
Yeah.
easier to create something new than to improve on something that has already been created.
Hmm.
If I was selling a product and I decided to sell on Facebook and everyone else is selling it on Facebook, everyone's just going to copy each other and try to outcompete each other. But if suddenly
Yeah.
TikTok comes around and nobody's selling on TikTok and I start to sell on TikTok, I'm going to be the only one there and I'm going to get more attention. That's why it's
Yeah.
always easier to create something new than it is to try to improve on something that someone has already done.
Right. Yeah. So you can tell yourself, yeah, I'm ready to be a successful person. And as we have talked about this in one of our previous videos, you have to truly believe it on the inside, which isn't something you can turn on like a switch.
It takes time, and the only way to start changing is to take action. And back to the second fallacy, you don't need to know everything before you begin. It doesn't matter if you don't know what you're doing because you'll learn along the way. Any form of
Yeah.
action is better than no action. As long as you do something, it's going to bring you closer to your goal.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's always important to remember that the first step will always be the hardest. But once you take
Hmm.
that first step, everything will just fall in place. You'll start to
Yeah.
see the path clearer. Imagine you're trying to go home and it's super
Hmm.
foggy and you can't see it, but you know it's like right across this road.
Yeah.
So if it's super foggy and you're like, okay, fuck it, let me just not do it because it's too risky, you won't reach home.
Mhm.
But if you just take one step at a time, what happens when it's foggy? You start to see things more clearly, right?
Yeah.
The path becomes clearer with every step you take. And soon you can see your house.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just take the first step and just keep taking one step at a time.
Yeah. And if you're wondering, how do we take the first step? Let me just give you guys my experience, which is when I started working out at the start of last year. So I've never worked out my whole life. I've always been super skinny, but once you're past your early 20s, you start to gain fat easily, especially in the belly region. So from the start of last year, I wanted to change that and better myself. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think you came to me and you asked me how to work out and what you should do because you wanted to
Yeah.
turn your life around.
Yeah. So I asked him for the advice because he works out regularly. So the first point is to seek advice from people who have knowledge and experience in the area. Ideally, you should get their support to help guide you through this process. After seeking his advice, I decided to start with push ups because I don't need equipment for that and I could do it anywhere. Now, the second step is arguably the hardest part of the process because I had to actually start doing push ups, which brings us to the next point, just do it. Now, bear in mind, I haven't done push ups since gym class in high school. So there was no way I could straight up do even one good push up. Most people will stop here because they're discouraged by the idea of taking weeks to train up your strength to just do one simple push up. And that's too much work for most people. So that brings us to point three. We have to take our time and do it one step at a time to avoid confusing yourself and disappointment, because we're not going to succeed on the first try. And as that old saying goes, how do you eat a whale? A bite at a time. I had to start from the very beginning, which meant kneeling push ups. Sounds pretty embarrassing, right? Like that's what girls do in gym class. But honestly, who cares? If you let your ego get to you, you're not going to get to start anything because you're too worried about what other people will think. If you're uncomfortable working out in front of other people, just do what I did and work out at home first. Set yourself some achievable milestones so that you can track your progress and look back at how much you've achieved. This really helps to keep your motivational levels high.
And I think it's good to note that if things are hard and you're finding it difficult, that means you're doing something right. If it's too
Yeah,
easy, you're not progressing. If you're finding it difficult, then you're on the right path.
exactly. Yeah. And the fourth point is we just have to remember that everybody started somewhere. On the streets, every day we see a lot of people who have what we want, whether it's a nice car, a guy who's jacked up, or whatever. In my case, I wanted to look fit. So naturally, I'll notice this more in my day to day life. The issue with that is for some people, they will feel discouraged and unmotivated because it takes years of working out to build a solid body and to look jacked like those people you see on Instagram or just people on the street. But we just have to bear in mind that they were once just like us. They just have a head start. That's it.
And it's important to remember that everyone is on their own timeline. Some people
Yeah.
hit puberty early while others get it late. Some graduate at 21, others will graduate at 25. As long as you're getting closer to where you want to be, you are on the right path.
Hmm.
And the key is how you see things in life. Because if you're trying to get a better and more attractive body and you see more people that are all buff and that demotivates you, you're viewing it in the wrong way. Because if
Hmm.
that's demotivating you, it's just going to push you further away from your goal. But instead, you should view it as I'm going to get there one day. That's going to be me. That's what I want to be like. That's where I want to reach. This will motivate you instead of putting you down. Instead of being like, oh, I'll never be like that. I'm never going to have a body like that. It's not impossible. It will just take time.
Yeah. Which brings us to the final point, which is simply staying in your lane. Just because someone else is doing steroids, for example, it doesn't mean that that's the right thing for you. You have to reflect on your skills, your experience, your motivations, and use your best judgment. So, staying grounded is so important and just enjoying every minute of the process, despite how excruciating it could be. And for me, it's been more than a year since. And I have to say that starting to work out was one of the best decisions I've made in my life. So, riding on that point, we have to talk about the wrong mindset to avoid. So, when we see other people succeed, instead of thinking about how you can improve yourself, you view their success as if it's only because of their privileges and resources that they've been given. Now, this is something that you should avoid because for the longest time, I was stuck in that mindset. And it was something that I didn't realize was holding me back. The problem was back then, I was surrounded by people, by friends who had the same mindset as well. So when I hung out with them, all we talked about was, oh, that guy's a trust fund baby. Of course he's going to be successful. Or who do you think got her that lead actress role? Her sugar daddy, probably. Or Bill Gates became a billionaire at 21 years old because his mom was on the board of United Ways and helped him, and he hired people to build everything for him. So, talking about all of that, we were just going in circles. It's basically a sad circle jerk to make ourselves feel better about our situation. And it's not productive. It's ego, thinking that we are doing the best we can. But the fact was, we weren't even trying to do something about it.
Yeah, there's this famous quote that says you're the sum of the 5 people that you spend your most time with. And it's
Yeah.
very accurate because if your best friends are all clubbing and drinking every day, guess what? You're going to be clubbing and drinking too. If all of your best friends are all going to the gym, working out, exercising, then of course you're going to join them and start exercising too. That's just how it works.
Yeah. See, right now, we both have a positive lifestyle. We're working out, we're eating good, we're on schedule with our daily lives, we're getting shit done. That's the kind of people that you want to be around with if you want to be anybody in this world.
There was another quote that someone said, I'm not sure who, but he said, if you show me your friends, I can predict your future. I think if you want a reality check, you can pretty much just look at the people that you're closest to, and you can
Mhm.
pretty much see the direction you're going to be headed in.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. So going back to the examples, the things that what previously I was so bitter about, the people who I was envious of, they knew what they wanted to pursue and they did something about it instead of sitting around waiting for some big break that will never happen. Bill Gates could have been content with being an upper middle class person and live out his days as an executive at some multinational company, but he had bigger purpose. There's no shortage of people who have better resources and privileges than him back then. But why did he make it? So let me ask you this. If you were given the same privileges and resources, would you have the capacity, the discipline, and the balls to do the same thing? Because it's so easy to disapprove and just to say, no, that'll never work. But that means you're running in circles and staying in your comfort zone. And we just mentioned if you're in a comfortable situation, you're not progressing, it's not working you're not getting there. And just because you don't believe it doesn't mean it's not true. So eventually you start asking yourself, am I really satisfied with my current situation? And more often than not, the answer is no, you're not.
That reminds me of something because if you go to the stadium or any sporting event, you'll
Hmm.
see a lot of people say, "Oh, this player is trash. He's so shit. He can't play. What is he doing there?" Or let me
Hmm.
play there. Let me be in his position. I'll score that goal. I'll do better
Hmm.
than him.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the reality is if you chuck that person into the same place as he is, he won't be able to do the same thing. He won't be able to compete. It's like how you said, if you were given the same privileges and resources as Bill Gates, would you be able to do what he did?
Yeah.
And most likely not.
Yeah.
So that's why you shouldn't be envious or jealous of other people. If the law of attraction is real and what you think is what you get, then with feelings of jealousy and envy, all you're going to do is bring about more of that. But if you don't believe in the law of attraction, you could basically put it this way: by focusing on envy and jealousy, you're essentially focusing on that which causes you to notice more things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, to sum up everything, the key is just to take action. All you have to do is take action. It doesn't matter whether you have all the tools in place because you will learn along the way. Without taking step 1, you will not see step 2.
Right. Okay, that's pretty much it for today's video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.